Hey everyone, it's James at geometricharts.com. February 6th, about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, or sorry, this is the weekly chart I'm going to start with. Then I'll go over to the 4-hour chart. With Bitcoin, this is BTC USD on the Bitfinex exchange. So first of all, videos on investment advice. Second of all, we are buried into the 200-week moving average. I mean, we're slightly above it. And I made the line extremely gigantic because this is like the new headline, the new thing. The moon launch pad is right here, and Bitcoin is going to 500 million next week. And that's basically what people are looking for. But what I see at the end of the day is skyrocket up, skyrocket down, and pretty much a mountain formation on the chart. I do not think, even if there is a little pop off this 200-week moving average again, I don't think it's going to last at all. The RSI, stochastics, I mean, just looking at the weekly, you can see momentum is dying and continues to die. There's nothing but underlying weakness to this market. So people are coming up with crazy projections upward and onward, and instead of Bitcoin building stairs to the moon like it was doing, it's instead building stairs downward. And I definitely think it has further to go in the bigger picture. So again, I am a long-term bear on Bitcoin, and I don't think it's going to rocket launch to the moon from this zone at all. I know a lot of people are talking about it, that it's holding here, or this correction is nothing, blah, 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 look back in the past and all that. The market doesn't have memory for that. This is the reality of the new market. And I definitely think the overall theme of this market is seller domination. There's just a lot of weakness in this market, and we can see it just stair-stepping down over and over and over again. It's coiling, building a lot of energy. These energy coils can lead to some very explosive moves up or down, and it's kind of just chopping within this range, right? We just tested the bottom again. Here's the bottom of the prior drop. We just tested it, we popped off, and more than likely I don't think we're going to hold. We could have like a little bit of a poke up, possibly something like that, but I don't think this area is going to hold. I think come next week or the week after, we're definitely, probably like next week. I couldn't imagine this holding up for that much longer. I definitely think we're coming back down to retest this area. And the question is, the big question is does Bitcoin hold the 32 to 3,300 area on Bitfinex? Obviously, each exchange is going to differ, but does it hold? If not, it's going to burst right through like it did at 6,000 and drop significantly lower, and obviously start to migrate its way back down into a lower energy coil, looking in the low to mid 2,000 range. And that more than likely is going to be, I think there's a massive magnet down there, and I do not think Bitcoin is going to be able to get away from that magnet. We have the sirens call down here, and Bitcoin is definitely moving that way. No matter how many times it turns away, it just wants to follow the sirens call, and I think it's going to. I think it's just part of the mountain formation. I don't think the market could be held and thrown sideways much longer. Again, it's like a miniature version of 6,000, and that's the way I'm going to treat it, is as a miniature version. And you know, when I see people, the sentiment's kind of mixed. Like obviously a lot of people are distraught. A lot of people feel like there's some downside, but I still see a lot of videos and stuff and articles that are talking about upside and some crazy projections at that still out there, and everyone feels like, oh, that's it, this is the line in the sand, the 200-week moving average, this is the launch pad, Bitcoin's going to shoot to $700 million tomorrow, you don't know what you're talking about, you're an idiot, blah blah blah. But it's really hard to deny at the end of the day, when you look at this chart, that sellers completely dominate the market, and it's going to be a while before the market makes any big sustained turnaround. So right now, it's really just a bunch of small little trades, like daily trades, and that's pretty much what it has turned into, is that you have to be very nimble and very quick with Bitcoin on a daily basis because the overall trend is definitely down. And these pumps, as much as you want to believe they're going to be sustained, they never are. They always end, and they end in a horrible fashion. The only thing is, luckily, the end to these pumps has now been more elongated. So it's a more time-consuming process. And I talked about the time element because the time element is probably the number one way. I mean, you can thrash the market up and down. People will just like go drink a beer and they'll relax and they'll be like, you know what, I'm not going to look at it for a year. But if you stretch that price out 1 year and it's still doing the same thing and people are poking it with a stick and it's still doing the same thing, people will leave and they'll exit and they'll go find something else to make money in. You know, whatever the next hottest crazes is, Tamagotchis or whatever you want to say. But the overall theme of this market is that we went through a bubble phase and now we're coming back down into the normalization phase, and that is the most time-consuming process, like it was during the dot-com bubble, 15 years for the NASDAQ to come back. How many people do you think how from the top of the dot-com bubble to now? Probably very few. I mean, grandpa, sure, but, you know, great-grandparents, sure, but, you know, people, there is a large majority of the traders out there that are going to exit when things start grinding, and that's exactly what Bitcoin is doing. It is grinding and grinding, and there's little pops and there's hopes, you know, little balloons of hope that immediately get popped, and it's just like this wicked master over Bitcoin. Just as soon as these little balloons of hope come up, pop, 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 you know. But and that's kind of what these videos are. You know, they're poking holes in a lot of people's dreams, or at least they feel that I'm poking holes in a lot of their dreams, but it's not that. It's just, this is just the natural process of a bubble, and looking at the bigger picture, it's dominated by sellers. So it's going to be a grind, and it's going to take time. There's still going to be money to be made, but you need to be nimble, and you need to be ready to hop from long to short, or, you know, from short to long. You need to be quick, because when these moves happen, they're very explosive and they end in an explosive way. You can take a longer term trade as well too. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand there's going to be a lot of volatility. So in order to circumvent that, the best thing to do is not check on your account every single day, or you'll literally go crazy, set some alerts up and call it a day. Have your your projections and your trading strategy in place before you go ahead and do that. But those are pretty much it. I think the nimble play is probably the best play to take here, because when it does drop, it can turn into a very violent drop, especially everyone who was so gung-ho that 6,000 was the bottom and was going to rocket to $700 trillion per Tom Lee and John McAfee and all of them. And you can see it went from 6,000 down to 3,500. Now, I don't care who the heck you are, unless you have a very small amount of money in the cryptocurrency, you're going to hurt from that. And you're going to hurt very, very bad. And it's not something you're going to want to hold on to and remind yourself of day in and day out and day in and day out, over and over and over again. And that's what this process is doing. There's a lot of people that are holding since the 20s, a lot of people that are close to the 20s. There are a lot of people that are holding since the 10s, a lot of people holding since the 6s. There's going to be a lot of people holding at the 3s. And I think the best thing to do psychologically is just to be nimble in this thing and get out, have a floor set that you're going to stop out, or, you know, a profit target set where you're going to exit and take your money. You know, if you make a big gain, look to exit this market as quick as possible. More than likely, it's not going to get held. I mean, the overall theme since the 20,000 top has been down. It's just stair-stepping downward. So it's really hard to look at these charts and extrapolate anything bullish about it. Yeah, we're at the 200-week moving average. We're at a fallen wedge, blah, blah, blah. You know, we're in all these different things. But at the end of the day, there's so much weakness in this market, it's not even funny. And every move upward, we have this massive fluctuation of volume, and that massive amount of volume that does come into the market immediately gets siphoned back out into the hands of, you know, I don't even know, just the regular retail traders. I'm not even going to try to come up with names. But the point is that the overall theme was weakness. Bitcoin's trying to hold up. there's some micro movements occurring, right? Aside from all the technical analysis, just looking at the basic chart, we can clearly see this, right? And even on the daily, that way it's not so tight. I mean, you can see the 200-day moving average just violently pointing, or not violently pointing down, but basically showing you the slope of this mountain formation on the chart. And the indicators, I mean, everything is just down, dying. So it's going to be very hard to turn that around. It's not going to happen with some crazy pop. It's not going to happen with this. It's not going to happen with that. It's not going to happen with that. It's not going to happen with that. It's not, sure as heck's not going to happen with this. I mean, look how tiny this is in relation to everything in the past that we've seen in Bitcoin. So, you know, this is the reason why I put these videos out there. It's not because I feel great that I'm essentially destroying the hope of these holders out there, these moon boys and girls, and eventually I do think there is a purpose in the future for cryptocurrency. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a crypto hater, but it's going to be a very tough journey in Bitcoin ahead, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a very long time. It may even look something very similar to back here, where price popped up and it kind of just chop, and look how long it took from 2013 was the top, all the way to 2017, right? 4 years. When you look on the weekly chart, 4 years of just chop. Of course, on the micro scale, there were a lot bigger price movements within that range, but the point is that Bitcoin could be literally on the same exact path, and that's what I've been talking about in my prior videos, is that we have this basically long curve forming, and I do think that it's going to be drawn out as much as possible. The question is, can they draw it out further to the right into time and space or not? I don't know, but if it does start to drop through and the 2000s don't hold up, the mid 2000s, we're returning to the base, and that base on this mountain formation is probably closer to about 800 and 900 points, and that may be a temporary bottoming area, but not a bottoming area like it's going to go from 8 to 900 all the way back to 20,000. No, a bottoming area as in something like this that's going to span a long time, 5, 10 years, 15 years. I have no idea, but I think everyone's looking to trade this market, and I think that's where a lot of people fall prey into, is that they're trying to trade the market as if John McAfee's here talking in this ear, and then Tom Lee's over here talking in this ear, and you're right here, and your head's going, and everyone's talking about the moon up here, and that's all everyone's focusing on in this market. So, you know, I don't mean to make it a long video, but I'm just trying to really explain the overall theme of this market is weakness, and there's tons of videos out there. I mean, if I put headlines out, this thing was going to 20,000, I would probably quadruple my subscription rate, like by tomorrow. It'd be insane on how many eyes I could attract to these videos with some stupid clickbait things. But the reality is very grim for Bitcoin. Not that it's the end of cryptocurrency, but it definitely has more hell to pay in that sense. And the alts are obviously following course as well too. So the whole market's pretty much going in sync, and I think it's going to weed or smash out a lot of the other cryptos, which is about 3,900. So I know I talked about it in my other videos, but again, I've seen some comments about it, and I do read the comments from time to time. I may not respond, but I do read the comments, and I'll try to integrate it into the video to hopefully answer these questions. And hopefully this answers the time questions. Hopefully it answers the 200 week moving average questions. Like, I do see these things. I do look at other sorts of technical analysis, especially for my subscribers, where I'm doing daily and night videos. But I try to leave the YouTube just kind of on the general picture of what is going on in this market. And it's definitely like a swing trader's dream at this time. You have to use the indicators, you have to be on the smaller time frames, and you have to look for these quick and fast trades, and you have to be ready to jump ship. You can grab the longer term trades as well too if the zones hold up, like the 3,200 zone. 3,300 zone on Bitfinex may lead to a turnaround in the market, at least for the short term. And I say that for the short term because the long term is down. I don't think that's going to change. I think even if we bounce from 3,200 to 4,400, I highly doubt it's going to hold. I highly doubt, especially with the overarching theme of what's happening in this market. So, and I sure as heck don't think we're going to do that move. That's way too crazy of a move. But anyways, that's it for tonight. I will do another video on Friday. I didn't mean to make it a long video. Just kind of wanted to explain some things after some of the comments that I see and etc. So then that way it kind of answers those questions. I don't mean to leave everyone hanging or not respond to you, but I am very busy with my subscribers, my own business. I have multiple businesses. So it does keep me very busy on a daily basis, but I try to keep these YouTube videos as not as like generic, but just kind of on the bigger macro picture of what's going on, because this industry is like shrouded. This market is just shrouded in this like crazy insanity of bullish, like BS lines, I guess I could say, for articles and so forth. Very similar to penny stocks, and that's what these videos are. I just put them out there just to have them. So if you're uber bullish, maybe you kind of say, okay, like let me step back a little bit and maybe start to really plan out maybe some stops or something like that. Maybe not get so hyped up and to where you're throwing in. I mean, some people are throwing in like I've heard stories of people throwing in paychecks every single month, as in like their entire savings was going into crypto because of what the media did. And it's absolutely horrible. So that's the reason for these videos, to put them out there, hopefully tell people like slow the brakes down, look at what the chart is telling you. It's just human emotion. It's energy. I like to view it as energy, buying and selling, and obviously energy is dying. And energy, in order to like restart, there's a lot required to restart this market. It's not going to be a quick process. It's not like it's just going to get an adrenaline shot and it's going to rocket to the moon tomorrow. It's going to be a very time consuming process to take all of this negative energy and turn that energy positive. So anyways, that is it. I will talk to everybody on Friday. I hope you have a great night, great day, depending on where you are in the world, and I'll talk to you on Friday.